Okay, picture this. You wake up one morning, you look yourself dead in the eye in the bathroom mirror, and you say, out loud to your own reflection, for the next 30 days, I am only going to speak, think, write, and even argue in English. No safety net, no retreating to your first language when things get hard or confusing or just a little embarrassing. Just English, from sunrise to when you finally collapse into bed at night.
That sounds like either the best idea anyone's ever had or an extremely dramatic way to ruin a perfectly good month.
Possibly both. And yet people do it. It's called a total immersion challenge. And for some learners, it is the single most transformative thing they've ever done for their English. Welcome back to Kindle English Podcast, everyone. I'm Hazel.
And I'm Finn. And today we are getting fully into this whole English only for 30 days phenomenon. What actually happens to your brain, why it feels like absolute chaos in week 1, why week 2 might make you want to cry, and what comes out the other side.
Whether you've been curious about trying this yourself, whether you've already given it a go and hit a wall, or whether you're just fascinated by how language learning actually works in the real world, this episode is absolutely for you.
And if you're someone who secretly practices English by narrating everything you do like you're the star of a documentary, also for you. No judgment.
None whatsoever. If you're new to Kindle English Podcast, hey, welcome. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. We put these episodes together for English learners at every level, from nervous beginners to people who are almost there and just need that final push.
And if today's episode speaks to you, share it with a friend who keeps saying, I'll work on my English later. Sometimes all it takes is the right nudge.
All right. So the word that you hear constantly in the language learning world is immersion. Immerse yourself in English. Immersion is the key. But when I actually sat with that word, what does it mean in practice? Because there's a difference between saying you're immersed and actually being immersed.
Right, like, is watching one English movie a week immersion?
I mean, that's a start. But genuine immersion is more like surrounding yourself so completely with the language that it becomes unavoidable. Your grocery list is in English, your phone is set to English. When you stub your toe at 2 a.m. on the corner of the bed frame,
The classic.
you yelp in English, which might actually be the truest fluency test that exists.
Ow, that really hurt. If it comes out in English without thinking, you've arrived.
You've arrived. Okay, let's get into it.
So what's the actual breaking point? Like, what makes someone wake up one day and think, all right, 30 days, English only, this is happening?
It's almost always a moment of frustration that's been building for a while. Like, a friend of mine had been studying English seriously for probably 4 or 5 years. Apps, textbooks, evening classes, grammar exercises. And by most formal measurements, she was actually quite good. Solid grammar, decent vocabulary. But the moment she was in a real conversation with a native speaker or in a job interview where she was nervous or just at a dinner party where everyone was talking fast, she'd freeze. The words would be there somewhere, but she couldn't access them. It was like knowing you have keys but not being able to find them when the door is right in front of you.
That freeze is one of the most frustrating things. You know the language, your brain has it, and yet
your mouth just locks. And she realized that all those years of studying had built her a beautiful library of English, but she'd never practiced actually running through it at speed. So she decided to go cold turkey.
Cold turkey. I always want to know where expressions come from. What does it actually mean?
So when you go cold turkey, you stop something abruptly and completely, with no gradual steps, no easing in. It's used a lot when people quit a habit, like quitting coffee cold turkey, meaning overnight all at once. My friend used it to mean no more retreating, no more thinking, okay, I'll try tomorrow. From that day, English only. Slam the door on everything else.
I love that image, slamming the door.
And what's interesting is how different the challenge looks depending on where you are. If you live in London, New York, Sydney, Toronto, English is already the wallpaper of your life. Signs, conversations on public transport, TV, radio. The external immersion is already there. The challenge is more internal. It's about commitment.
Versus if you're somewhere English isn't the dominant language of daily life, you have to actively seek it out.
Exactly. You have to be intentional about building an English environment when your surroundings aren't doing it for you. And both situations have their own difficulty, because in an English-speaking country, you might hear loads of English, but still not be pushed to produce it. That distinction, consuming versus producing, is enormous.
What's the difference, practically?
When you consume language, reading, listening, your brain is in recognition mode. You're matching sounds and words to things you already know. When you produce it, speaking, writing, you're retrieving and constructing from scratch. It's like the difference between recognizing a song when you hear it and being asked to sing it. Very different cognitive demands.
I can hum the theme from something I've heard 1,000 times and still completely blank on the actual lyrics.
Exactly. Recognition is not the same as production. And for English learners, that gap is often where confidence lives, or doesn't.
Okay, day 1. The challenge begins. Walk me through what actually happens.
Beautiful chaos.
In what way?
So I came across someone's written diary of their 30-day English-only experience, and day 1 was genuinely quite good. They were energized, motivated, the novelty was exciting. Day 2, they started noticing, like really noticing, how many times a minute their brain reached for their first language, like a reflex. Someone would ask them a question, and before their conscious brain had even engaged, their instinct was already pulling toward the familiar language.
The autopilot.
Exactly. And by day 3, that's when the self-consciousness kicked in hard. And I want to really unpack that phrase because it comes up constantly in these accounts. To be self-conscious means to be uncomfortably, intensely aware of how you're coming across. Like you're watching yourself from outside your own body, cataloging every awkward pause and wrong word.
And that feeling of being on stage in your own life.
And in a second language, you're suddenly aware of things you've never had to think about in your first language. Your accent, your vocabulary gaps, whether you use the past tense or the present perfect, whether the person is being patient with you or is about to give up.
All of that at once, in real time.
At full speed. And what almost everyone reports in those early days is that they stumble over their words constantly. To stumble over your words, do you want to take that one, Finn?
Sure. Stumbling over your words means you hesitate. You lose your place mid-sentence. You backtrack. You know what you want to say, but somewhere between your brain and your mouth, the message gets scrambled. Like, I want to, the bread thing with the seeds on top?
A seeded roll. The word was seeded roll.
I was this close.
And here's what I want people to hear. Stumbling over your words in those early days is not failure. It is not a sign that the challenge isn't working or that you don't have the capacity. It's actually evidence that your brain is actively reaching, building connections that don't fully exist yet. You can't build a bridge without the scaffolding being a little rickety first.
I like that. The rickety scaffolding is part of the process.
It is the process. The stumbles are load-bearing.
Okay, the stumbles are load-bearing. I'm writing that down.
That one's free. So there's a milestone that nearly everyone who completes a serious immersion challenge mentions. And it doesn't happen on day 1 or 2. It tends to creep up on you somewhere in the middle. And it's the moment when you stop translating inside your head and you start actually thinking in English.
Okay, wait, unpack that. Because I think most people assume that's just how it always works. You have a thought in your native language and then you translate it?
That's the default for most learners, yes. You experience something, you see a dog in the park, let's say, and your first language fires first. Your internal monologue names it in your native tongue, and then you run that through an internal translator and produce the English. And it works, but it's slow. There's always a step in between.
The lag.
The lag, yes. And thinking in English means that intermediate step disappears. You see the dog and the English just fires. You don't narrate to yourself in between. And when it happens for the first time, people say it's genuinely strange, a little disorienting. Like, wait, where did my first language go? One person I read described it as the language clicking into place, like the last piece of a puzzle finally fitting.
That's a beautiful image, actually.
And immersion seems to accelerate this because you're not giving your brain an escape route. You're essentially forcing it to build direct pathways instead of going the long way round every time.
Does it happen at the same time for everyone? Like, is it always day 14, day 20?
No, it's really individual. Some people get little flashes of it in week 2, a moment here, a moment there, where they notice, oh, I just thought of that word in English first. For others, it happens more gradually, and they only realize in retrospect. But almost universally, people who complete the full 30 days say their relationship to the language shifted meaningfully. It's no longer a subject, it's starting to feel like a tool.
And then there's the opposite. The words you just cannot wrap your head around no matter how many times you encounter them.
You just used wrap your head around so naturally right there.
Unpracticing. For our listeners, to wrap your head around something means to fully understand it, especially when it's confusing or counterintuitive. Like, I can't quite wrap my head around British queuing rules.
The queuing rules. Don't get me started. You don't just join the queue. You have to correctly identify which queue is actually the queue, because sometimes the real queue is invisible.
An invisible queue. How do you immerse yourself in that?
Years of practice, Finn. Years of quiet, anxious practice.
Okay, we have to give some time to the embarrassing moments, because I think these are where the real learning lives, honestly.
Oh, absolutely. The cringe is load-bearing.
Another one for the list.
So, I heard a story about someone on day 5 of their challenge. She went into a coffee shop in, I think it was Melbourne, and she wanted a specific drink with a specific milk, and she'd rehearsed it in her head. She'd said it 3 times in the mirror that morning, and then she got to the counter and completely blanked on the word size. So she ended up pointing at the smallest cup and saying, "A not big oat milk one, please."
A not big one.
The barista, just completely unfazed, said, "Small oat latte coming up." And she paid, and she went and sat in the corner, and she said the embarrassment lasted maybe 45 seconds. And then she thought, he understood me. He didn't laugh. I got the coffee. We all survived.
And that is actually a massive shift in mindset, letting go of the idea that imperfect equals wrong.
That shift might be the most valuable thing the challenge gives you, because a lot of learners, especially people who are highly educated, people who are used to being competent and capable in their first language, they carry this extra weight, the fear of being perceived as less intelligent because they're using simpler words.
When actually, attempting a second language at all is a form of intelligence.
100%. And that not big oat milk one got her the coffee. The communication worked. The purpose was served. Nobody in that cafe was marking her down.
And I think in Australia and Canada too, there's a really genuine warmth toward people making the effort to communicate. The cultural expectation is, you tried, you communicated, we're good. The grace is built in.
In the UK, it can feel a bit more reserved on the surface, but underneath, British people genuinely appreciate the attempt. They're just slightly less effusive about it.
They're thinking, well done you, very warmly inside.
Very warmly, in complete internal silence. Let's make this really practical. I want to do a proper role play because I think it helps to actually hear what these moments sound like, not just imagine them.
Yes, let's do it. What's the scenario?
Okay, it's day 8 of your English-only challenge. You're in a supermarket in Toronto. You need to find a specific ingredient. Let's say you're making a curry and you need coconut milk. You spot an employee stacking shelves. What do you say?
Excuse me? Sorry, I am looking for the coconut milk?
Good. That works completely. Don't underestimate it. But let's also try a version that sounds slightly more natural in casual spoken English. Instead of "I am looking for," you'd often hear, "Do you know where I'd find the coconut milk?" It's a really useful structure because it sounds polite without being formal or stiff.
Do you know where I'd find? And you can drop it onto anything.
Anything. Do you know where I'd find the coconut milk? Do you know where I'd find the bathroom? Do you know where I'd find the manager? The skeleton stays the same. Okay, let's run it properly. I'm the employee.
Oh, hey, sorry to bother you. Do you know where I'd find the coconut milk?
Of course, it's down in aisle 7, right next to the canned tomatoes.
Perfect, thank you so much.
Done. That whole exchange was maybe 12 seconds. Nobody was grading Finn's grammar. He was polite, he was clear, he communicated his need, and he got a useful answer. That is the definition of successful English.
And not a single head tilt.
0 head tilts. Total success. And notice what Finn did instinctively. He opened with "Sorry to bother you." That little softener is very natural in British and Australian English especially. It acknowledges the person's time before you make a request.
Is that more of a British thing? Would Americans say that too?
Americans might be a bit more direct. "Hey, quick question, where's the coconut milk?" Still friendly, still fine. The "sorry to bother you" has more of a British or Australian warmth to it. Neither is wrong, they just carry slightly different cultural flavors.
So knowing your audience matters, even within English.
Always. English is not one monolith. It's a family of dialects and registers that you pick up over time.
Okay, let's talk about something practical, because one of the things I love about this podcast is that we try to give people actual phrases they can use the moment they finish listening.
Yes, so if someone who's been doing an English immersion challenge or any kind of language learning journey wants to talk about it in conversation, what are some go-to openers?
Right, because
I am learning English is fine, but it's also a bit of a conversation ender, isn't it? Versus something like, I've actually been doing this challenge where...
Yes, that I've actually been framing is so much more engaging. It sounds like a story is starting. It invites the other person in. I've actually been trying to speak only English for 30 days. Someone is going to want to know more.
Versus, I study English, which could mean anything from I take a class on Tuesdays to I read textbooks for fun.
Which, no judgment, but it doesn't create conversational momentum. And another one I love, framing it as an experiment. I'm running this experiment on myself where it positions you as curious and proactive, not just a student.
It's agentic. You're doing something, not having something done to you.
And here's a conversational tip that I think is actually underestimated. Learning how to politely disagree mid-conversation in English, because this comes up so much. Someone says, oh, immersion doesn't actually work. I've read about it. And you want to push back without creating friction.
What's the English way to do that?
You don't say, no, you're wrong. You say, I hear you, though from what I've read, a lot of people find it really effective when it's done consistently. That little word, though, is doing all the heavy lifting. You're acknowledging their point without surrendering your own.
I hear you, though. That's so smooth. It's almost sneaky.
It's not sneaky, it's respectful. You're actually listening to them. You're just also holding your own position. And a good follow-up to that is, what's your experience been? Which turns it back into a conversation rather than a debate.
And what about when you need to buy yourself thinking time in English? Because that happens all the time in real conversation.
The filler phrases, these are gold. That's a good question. Let me think about that. Or, how do I put this? Or, right, so, and then you're already off. These phrases buy you 2 or 3 seconds without the conversation stalling.
Right, so I use that one. It sounds so natural and it genuinely creates the illusion that you had the answer ready and are just organizing it.
The illusion of preparation, textbook.
And one mistake I want to flag, gently, is the over-apologizing habit. Because I hear this a lot from learners. They'll start every sentence with, sorry for my bad English. And I understand where it comes from.
It comes from a really good place. You're being considerate. You don't want to make the other person work too hard.
But the effect is that you're drawing attention to errors that haven't even happened yet. You're preloading the apology, and it can actually make the person you're talking to slightly more nervous on your behalf.
Performed confidence, even if you don't fully feel it, signals trust. It says, I'm going to communicate something and I trust that you'll follow me. And that makes the other person settle in rather than brace.
And Hazel, notice what you did just then. You said, I want to flag, gently. The gently completely changed the energy of what could have felt like a correction.
Always. If you're ever pointing something out in English or in any language, I say this gently or I don't mean this harshly is a tiny addition that changes everything. Okay, here's one of my favorite parts of this topic, how wildly different the experience of the 30-day challenge can be depending on which English-speaking country you're doing it in.
Oh, this is going to be interesting.
So in the United States, and I say this with full affection, there is a very established culture of self-improvement challenges, the 30-day this and 90-day that. And within that culture, saying I'm doing a 30-day English-only immersion is immediately legible and admirable. People will ask follow-up questions, they will cheer, they will tell you about their own challenge they're doing.
That's amazing. I'm doing intermittent fasting and a gratitude journal.
Full energy, maximum enthusiasm. Whereas in the UK...
Oh, right. Good for you. Tea?
Exactly. And it's not coldness. It's just understatement is the cultural register. The warmth is very real. It just doesn't come at you at volume.
And you'd probably get more practical questions in the UK, actually. Like, how does that actually work rather than, that's incredible?
That's a good observation. The engagement is different, but it's genuine. In Australia, there's a very specific cultural thing. I've seen it described as tall poppy syndrome, the idea that you shouldn't position yourself as doing something grand or impressive. There's a gentle social pressure to downplay.
So how would you talk about the challenge in Australia without sounding like you're showing off?
You might frame it as, oh, I've been messing around with speaking more English lately, rather than I am undertaking a 30-day total immersion linguistic challenge.
The tonal difference between those two sentences is enormous, and they're describing the same thing.
Welcome to cross-cultural communication. And Canada,
I feel like Canada sits in a really lovely middle zone. Genuinely warm and curious, will ask follow-up questions, but without the intensity level of American enthusiasm.
The most politely interested people in the world.
And somehow they'll manage to apologize twice during the conversation, even though they've done nothing wrong.
And you love them for it.
You do. You really do.
All right, week 2. This is where things get real from everything I've heard.
The honeymoon is fully over by day 8 or 9. The novelty that got you through the first week has burned off, and what you're left with is just the reality of how much cognitive effort this requires.
Because it's exhausting, right? Actually exhausting?
Genuinely, physically tiring in a way that's hard to explain until you've experienced it. Your working memory is running hot the entire time. You're managing vocabulary, grammar, intonation, social cues, what you're actually trying to communicate, all of it simultaneously, at speed, with no break.
That's a lot of processes running at once.
In your first language, most of that is automatic. It's muscle memory. You don't think about it any more than you think about walking. But in a second language, you're manually doing each step. It's like the difference between walking normally and walking on ice. Same action, 10 times the effort.
And by day 10 or 11, some people just hit a wall.
And they think, I can't do this. I'm getting worse, not better. What's the point?
Are they getting worse? Or does it just feel that way?
Almost always, it just feels that way. And this is so important to understand. Language progress is not linear. You don't improve a little bit every single day in a way you can measure. You plateau. Sometimes you plateau for what feels like a painfully long time, and then you leap.
The leap is happening underground, though, even on the flat days.
Exactly. The connections are being strengthened even when you can't see it. And the people who push through week 2, and push through is exactly the phrase. To push through means to keep going despite difficulty, to persist when every part of you wants to stop.
They're the ones who hit the breakthrough.
They're the ones. And breakthrough is worth pausing on too. A breakthrough isn't gradual progress, it's a sudden leap. A moment where you realize something has shifted. You said something off the top of your head and you surprised yourself.
Did you just drop off the top of your head in there?
I did. Off the top of your head, meaning spontaneously, without preparation, when something just comes, fully formed, without you having to search for it. It's one of those milestone feelings in language learning.
Like when you realized you could ride a bike without thinking about balance.
Perfect comparison. The balance just handles itself.
Can we take a breath and talk about the actually enjoyable parts of this challenge? Because I feel like we've given a lot of real estate to the hard bits, which are important, but...
But you want permission to watch TV.
I want to talk about the strategic value of consuming English content.
Strategically watching television? Go on.
No, but genuinely, passive immersion, the kind where you're listening and reading in English rather than actively speaking, plays a real supporting role in this. And the research, or at least a lot of language learners' consistent experience, backs it up.
What you pick up without even trying. That phrase, pick up, is so useful. When you pick something up, you acquire it naturally, almost without noticing. You pick up vocabulary, pick up pronunciation, pick up the rhythm of how people actually speak.
And the key is, find content in English that you're already interested in. Because if the topic engages you, your brain is already leaning forward. You're absorbing more.
A cooking competition, a drama, a sports podcast, a comedy, it doesn't have to be educational. In fact, regular conversational TV might actually be more valuable for learning natural spoken English than formal educational content, because real people interrupt each other, use slang, trail off mid-sentence.
Talk with their mouths full.
They absolutely talk with their mouths full. And that messiness is how people actually speak. If you only ever hear clean scripted English, you're going to be thrown off by real conversation.
And podcasts, obviously. Find English language podcasts on topics you love and just let them run. On your commute, while cooking, while doing laundry, the language seeps in.
There is, of course, one podcast we could recommend for English learners specifically.
Totally unbiased opinion incoming.
But in all seriousness, the principle is make the language part of the texture of your day. Don't quarantine it to study hours. The more naturally English is woven into your life, the faster it starts to feel normal.
And there's something about hearing people speak, having it just play in the background, that primes your ear for real conversations later.
You start to anticipate patterns. You start to hear where sentences are going before they land. That's a skill that builds so gradually you barely notice it, and then one day you realize you're finishing people's sentences.
And that's kind of beautiful, isn't it? When a language becomes intuitive enough that you can predict it.
That's exactly when it stops feeling like work. I want to talk about a specific habit that I think might be the single biggest hidden obstacle for learners who are past the beginner stage. And it's the habit of constantly second-guessing yourself.
Like in the moment, mid-conversation?
Mid-sentence sometimes. You're doing fine. You're talking, you're communicating, and then a little voice goes, wait, was that the right tense? Should I have used have been or was? Did I use the right preposition? And the moment that voice fires, you've lost the thread.
That voice is the worst. That voice is not your friend.
It really isn't. To second-guess yourself means to doubt a decision you've already made. In language, doing it mid-sentence is a bit like trying to reread the map while you're still at full speed on the highway. You're going to veer off the road.
So part of what the Immersion Challenge does is force you to override that voice, just by necessity.
Exactly. When you're in the middle of a real conversation, you don't have the luxury of stopping to interrogate your grammar. You have to trust what comes out, keep going, and correct in the rearview mirror if needed.
And the more you do that, the more the second-guessing voice gets quieter.
It does, because you keep going and the person understands you and the world doesn't end, and your brain gradually files that away. Imperfection is survivable. Communication succeeded. That counts.
There's something bigger than language learning in that, honestly. The idea that you can move forward with imperfect information and still pull it off.
Pull it off, there's another great phrase. To pull something off means to successfully do something despite it being difficult or uncertain. I didn't think she'd pull off that 30-day challenge, but she absolutely did. It carries the sense of beating the odds slightly.
I love that one. Like you couldn't quite believe it worked, but it did.
And when you pull off a conversation in English, even an imperfect one, that small win compounds. It becomes evidence. Your brain starts to believe in its own ability.
Which might be the whole point of the challenge, actually. Not just the language, the belief.
That's exactly it.
Okay, week 3. Something shifts. Tell me what happens.
Week 3 is where a lot of people start having what I'd call oh moments. Little flashes of, wait, did I just do that? Did I just answer that question without translating first?
The off-the-top-of-your-head moments.
Yes, when something just comes, unplanned, spontaneous, fully formed, and it surprises you because it doesn't feel like you retrieved it from anywhere. It just appeared. That's the muscle memory kicking in.
What does that feel like from the inside?
A few people I read about described it as slightly vertiginous, like the floor shifted slightly, because your sense of yourself in the language changes. You go from person who is trying to speak English to person who sometimes just speaks English.
That's a real identity shift, not just a skill shift.
It is. And then you also get those companion moments. The words on the tip of your tongue, the ones you know exist, you know you've encountered them, but in the moment they're just out of reach.
On the tip of your tongue. That's such a physical feeling phrase. Like the word is right there, in your mouth almost, and then...
And it's not there.
Gone.
And what's interesting is that even those failed retrievals are doing something. Your brain is reaching for that word. The effort strengthens the connection. Next time, it'll come faster, or the time after that.
So even the frustrating moments are progress.
That's the whole game. Every attempt, successful or not, is a rep. And week 3 is when you start to feel the reps accumulating. Things that required conscious effort in week 1 are starting to feel more instinctive, more like muscle memory.
The tiny hard hat workers in your brain have been busy.
They've been working double shifts.
I want to make space for something that I think gets glossed over in a lot of the Immersion Challenge content, and that's the social and emotional cost, because this isn't just a linguistic shift.
You're right, and I'm glad you brought it up.
If you're doing this challenge and everyone around you speaks a different language, your family, your close friends, there's a real kind of distance that can open up, even temporarily.
Someone I read about did the 30-day challenge while living at home with their parents, who spoke very little English, and they described dinner conversations becoming either a lesson, which nobody really wanted, or a kind of quiet, and the quiet was harder than the lesson.
Because language is how you connect. It's not just words, it's history and humor and shorthand.
And choosing to operate in a different language, even with the best intentions, can feel like stepping into a room where your family can't quite follow you.
That's a real cost, and I think it's worth acknowledging rather than just powering through.
Absolutely.
I don't think anyone should feel like they have to sacrifice their relationships on the altar of a language challenge. There are ways to modify it. English during your work hours, English with your language exchange partner, English for journaling and media. But in the moments that matter with people you love, be present.
The challenge serves you, not the other way around.
And on the flip side, the people who really thrive during immersion challenges tend to be the ones who find or build an English community, a conversation partner, an online group, a language learning club where English is the shared space. Because you need to feel like you belong somewhere in the language you're building.
Somewhere to fall back on.
Yes, to fall back on, meaning to rely on when other things feel uncertain. You need a safe space within the language, a place where imperfection is expected and conversation still flows.
And humor. Someone I know who did a long immersion trip said that learning to make people laugh in English, even a little, was the thing that made her feel like she truly belonged in the language.
That's one of the most beautiful things you can do in another language. Make someone actually laugh. It requires such quick thinking, such genuine connection. If you can do that, you're really inside the language.
All right. Honest question, real answer. Does the 30-day English-only challenge actually work? Or is it one of those things that sounds great in a YouTube video, but in practice is a bit more complicated?
Honest answer? It depends enormously on what you expect it to do. And I want to be clear about this. 30 days will not make you fluent if you're starting from scratch. Anyone who promises that is telling you what you want to hear.
Hard agree.
Matter-of-factly. But if you come in with realistic expectations, meaningful improvement in your confidence, real reduction in that translation lag, better access to vocabulary you already have, the beginning of thinking in English, then for most people who genuinely commit, yes, something real shifts.
Curious, what's the most consistent outcome that people report?
3 things come up again and again. First, the fear shrinks. People are measurably less afraid of speaking English in real situations after 30 days of forced practice. The self-consciousness that was deafening in week 1 has quieted.
Because you've done the scary thing enough times that it's no longer terrifying.
Exactly. Second, people start to enjoy the language in a way they didn't before. When something is always a struggle, it's hard to enjoy it. But once you start to pull it off, even a little, there's this quiet satisfaction.
And the third?
Enthusiastically dreaming in English.
In their dreams?
In their actual sleeping dreams. And this one sounds almost too good to be true, but it comes up constantly in accounts from serious immersion experiences. When you start dreaming in a language, it means the language has gone somewhere very deep. It's not just a subject you study anymore. It's living in your brain's background processes.
Your brain is practicing while you sleep. That's almost poetic.
Nodding. And whether or not it happens in 30 days specifically varies. Some people report it sooner, some later. But it's a real phenomenon, and it tends to come after sustained, intensive exposure.
So 30 days isn't the finish line. It's more like a turning point.
Seriously, that's the framing I'd use. It's the place where the language stops being a project you're working on and starts becoming a capability you're building into. The 30 days shifts your baseline. Okay, if someone is listening and thinking, I want to try this, let's talk about the traps. Because there are some really predictable ways this challenge goes wrong, and they're almost all avoidable.
What's mistake number 1?
Firmly, the all-or-nothing mindset. Going in with, I will speak perfect English every second of every day, and if I slip even once, I failed. That framing will end your challenge on day 4.
I've been there on other kinds of challenges. One bad day and the whole thing collapses.
Right. The better frame is, English is my default. When I slip, and I will, I notice it, I return to English, and I keep going. The slip and return is not failure. The slip and quit is the only failure.
The returning is what matters.
Seriously. Second big mistake, doing the challenge in passive mode only. Lots of English input, listening, reading, but barely any speaking. And input is valuable, genuinely, but it's not enough on its own.
You have to produce. You have to speak.
You have to speak. Even if it's to yourself, to a language exchange partner, to the cat. You have to generate the language, not just receive it. The speaking circuits are a different system from the listening circuits, and they need their own workout.
Workout? Your brain really is a gym.
It really genuinely is. And third, and I feel strongly about this. Don't make the challenge about accent erasure. Don't use it as an opportunity to punish yourself for sounding like you're from somewhere. Accent is not fluency. Clarity is what matters. Your English can sound like you're from Berlin or Seoul or Sao Paulo and still be completely brilliant English.
This is so important. Some of the most compelling English speakers I've ever heard had very strong accents. The accent was part of their voice. It made them interesting.
The goal is communication. The goal is connection, not a performance of being from somewhere you're not.
Curious. Date 30 arrives. You've done it. And then what? Because I feel like that moment of what now can be destabilizing.
For a lot of people, there's actually a dip right after the challenge ends because the structure disappears. And without structure, old habits have room to creep back in.
Like when you finish a fitness challenge and then you go back to the couch because the goal is done.
Exactly. The challenge was the scaffolding, and now you have to decide what to build permanently.
So what does a sustainable post-challenge English life look like?
Small, consistent habits that keep the language alive without requiring the intensity of the challenge. An English podcast on your commute. One real conversation in English per day. Even a short one with a language exchange partner. Journaling in English a few times a week. Keeping your phone in English. Little anchors.
Things that mean English is always in your week, even if it's not every minute of every day.
And genuinely, celebrate. Day 30 is real. Take stock of where you were on day 1 versus now. Write down specific things that changed, because there will be days in the future when you're feeling stuck or discouraged, and being able to look back and see, I pushed through something hard before. I pulled it off. That self-knowledge is powerful.
The evidence you give yourself that you're capable.
That might actually be the most lasting thing the challenge produces. Not just better English, but knowing that you can do something difficult. That version of you exists.
Okay, I'm genuinely tempted to do a challenge now. 30 days of speaking exclusively in the most elaborate Victorian English I can manage.
I do beg your pardon. Might I trouble you for directions to the nearest purveyor of oat-based beverages?
Good sir, I find myself in dire need of a flat white.
You'd be the best and most confusing customer that Barisa had ever seen.
All right, Hazel. We've covered a lot of ground today. Let's land this properly.
We started with the idea of going cold turkey, committing fully, cutting off the safety net, and we explored what that actually looks like across a full 30 days.
Week 1, with all the stumbling over words and the self-consciousness. Week 2, the wall, the temptation to fall back on your first language. Week 3, when the first glimpses of thinking in English start to show up. Off the top of your head moments you didn't expect.
And we talked about what makes the real difference. Not perfection, but persistence. The slip and return rather than the slip and quit. And the self-trust that builds every time you push through something hard.
I want to leave people with something that stuck with me today. The fact that even your failed retrievals, the words on the tip of your tongue that didn't come, those are still reps. The brain is still working. The road is still being built.
If you are somewhere in a language learning journey right now and it feels slow or frustrating or like you're not making progress, you probably are, just underground. The leap is coming.
And your imperfect English, your not big oat milk one, and your round food thing, and your brave attempt in a grocery store in a city where you barely know anyone, that English is enough, right now, today.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us on Kindle English Podcast. You showed up for yourself today. That's the first rep.
And if you've ever done a version of this challenge, the 30 days or even the 3 days, drop your story in the comments. Did you dream in English? Did something completely unexpected happen? I genuinely want to know.
And if today's episode was useful to you, share it. Someone in your life is standing at the edge of this leap, wondering if it's worth it. Maybe your share is what nudges them forward.
We are not here to beg, but we're here every week, trying to make English feel like less of a mountain and more of a road. And roads are walkable, even imperfectly.
We'll see you in the next episode.
Until then, talk to someone. Talk to yourself. Talk to the dog. Just keep talking.
Even if they don't understand you, the dog is rooting for you.
Always.